Well, hello there, everyone. It is Monday, March 14th, 2022. So welcome to another work week if you're still working. This is Mazske from Mazske Finance, and I'm going to stress here, I'm not a financial advisor. I am definitely not an attorney. I'm not a CPA, nothing like that. But in this video, I'm going to talk a little about Dion Talks. I think it's called Dion Talk Financial, something, I'm forgetting it. I'll put a link to this one video in the comments below. And Dion's a great guy. He's been on my channel, and I really appreciate all the videos he makes. But he did make one video recently about why not to have an LLC, okay? Now, I watched it. He made a lot of good points in there, okay? But now, I have an LLC, okay? And even though I watched his video, I think he made a lot of great points. I think he's missing something. Okay, and I'll try to talk about it. I'm not going to pick apart his video. I'm not the sort of person, I'm not going to put in clips from what he says, nothing like that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. I'll put a link below to his video, and I'm going to put a link below to a different video that Michael Zuber did with Jonathan Twombly just the other day on why to have an LLC. Okay, all right, so I'm going to talk about just a little bit from my perspective, all right? So when I first started investing in real estate, I didn't have an LLC, all right? I got up to, I think, 10 properties before I started looking into getting an LLC. And when I started looking into getting an LLC, I had read a ton of stuff on investing in real estate. I had read books, I had watched YouTube channels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I also started talking to attorneys. I am a retired police officer. In police work, I got to know a lot of attorneys, mainly prosecutors and the ones defending the criminals. Okay, I'm forgetting the term. Okay, but then I'd meet other attorneys that would show up in court because different over 20 years, different attorneys would come to court. And then I worked out in a gym, and I met attorneys in there, and I would chit chat with them and got to know them. Okay, so when I started thinking about LLCs, I owned properties at that time in 3 different states: Virginia, Alabama, and Indiana. So when I started talking to attorneys, they all told me something to the effect, oh, we can do an LLC for you here in Virginia. We can't do them out of state. And then I talked to others, and I talked to another one. I never paid for this. I never paid for talking to them. I would just talk to them, get some information. Small town, you could do that, and they wouldn't charge you to do this. And then one attorney who is highly respected in the area, like he's a big name, kind of. I talked to him, I knew him, and I talked to him about it, and he said, well, you would need an LLC in Virginia, you would need to get an attorney in Indiana, an attorney in Alabama, and you would have to do 3 different tax returns, and this and that. And I was like, what am I getting into? This is just too elaborate. So then I found an attorney in Texas, okay? And his agency says they're going to appear on my channel, so I'm not going to talk too much about them, but I'm just going to tell what they do, okay, if that makes sense. All right. And I found another type of LLC, which is called something like, and I'll get my legal terms wrong because I'm not an attorney, it's the parent-child LLC, okay? And before I get into this, I'm going to back up just a little bit. All right, and I'll tell you, don't worry, stick around to the end because you'll hear some stuff that I think you will benefit from, okay? Now, don't let having or not having an LLC stop you from real estate investing. I had 10 properties before I started going in this direction, okay? All right, but one thing with LLCs, one thing with Dion was talking about insurance. Yes, every real estate investor needs insurance, all right? You normally, with a basic insurance policy on a home, you normally get something like $300,000 of personal liability protection. That's that someone happens to the tenant, they decide to sue you. Okay, $300,000. I get my rental insurance through another company called NREIG. You can Google them, National Real Estate Investment Group, I think is what it is. And they just deal, I believe, 100% with investors. And what they do is they give a standard $1 million personal liability policy. Okay, so $1 million. $1 million is a pretty decent policy. I also have an umbrella insurance policy, okay, for additional protection. All right, now with insurance companies, a little bit, I'm not an insurance expert, A little bit I know about insurance companies, they will try to get out of paying claims if they can. All right, keep that in mind. All right, so do you want to put full faith in the insurance? All right, but let's say you get sued and you have $1 million with your insurance and your $1 million balloon. Haven't you heard of lawsuits that have been $3 million, $5 million, $10 million? Sure, they're not common to the common mom and pop landlord, but they can happen, okay? Now you can say, and Dion said something like this, you got to be a good landlord. You got to listen to your handyman. You got to make repairs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I 100% agree with that. Okay, I 100% agree with that. But now in my case, I use property managers. So now I have to trust my property managers to do everything. And yes, they don't want to get sued. So you would assume, remember what the word assume, break it down, what does it mean? You would assume that the property manager will do everything they can to avoid getting sued. But now you're trusting in other people and you got tenants in. And if the tenants and my properties are out of state. Well, let me ask you this. If you're a real estate investor, how many of you have tenants who might perceive that you are a rich landlord? Probably a whole bunch of tenants think their landlords are rich, okay? Now, with that being said, all it takes is one person. I'm a retired cop. In police work, a lot of police officers get involved in lawsuits. A lot. Usually it's frivolous, it's false, and et cetera, et cetera. Other times it's legitimate. But usually the department is standing behind them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? As a landlord, we're it, right? Okay? So, but all it takes is one person. Maybe you haven't done anything wrong, but they want the big payday. And maybe it's Dion's tenant and they just see Dion like, I don't like that guy, but they put a smile on their face. They're nice. And they decide he is rich. I want to attack him. Okay, odds are they're not going to win, but they're going to get a lawsuit and he may have to go to court. And he used to be a police officer. He's been in court. I've been in court a lot, but I don't like going to court. I especially don't want to get sued and go to court. Okay, so anyway, fast forwarding just a bit, the attorney I found, this is what they do. And it might sound a little elaborate, okay, but it's really not. It's really very, very simple. Okay, all of my properties, I buy them in my own name. I even get commercial loans. Like Dion had said, if you get commercial, you got to have LLCs. I buy all loans I've gotten, commercial, non-QM lenders, I get in my own name, okay? Because I get better terms, okay? If you get a commercial loan, you normally, especially as a business, you get worse terms. You get commercial rates. I don't like that. I want to get better terms. So I buy in my own name. But then after I close on it, I then contact my attorney. And we, what's the term? I won't get the term right, but we put the property into a trust, all right? And the banks don't mind this because a lot of folks put properties in trust, okay? You're the owner of the trust, but the owner of the trust is anonymous, okay? So the property goes into the trust, and that's what the bank sees, and the banks don't care, all right? But then the trust is owned by a child LLC. It's a child LLC, all right? If I have a second property, it also goes into another trust. 123 Main Street, 123 West Street. Third property, 123 South Street. They all go into their own trust, okay? One trust, two trust, three trust. I have 25 properties? I have a lot of trust, okay? Every single trust is owned by a child LLC. So for every trust, there's a child LLC. It's a child series LLC holding that trust, okay? And it's all legal terminology and the legal paperwork and stuff. But then every property, and let's just say I have 25, every property is compartmentalized. It's individual, okay? Jonathan Twombly said a great thing in the video with Michael Zuber. I'll put the links below. He said a limited liability corporation is exactly that, limited liability. It limits your liability, Okay? If you get an LLC, it can limit your liability. It doesn't mean you will never get sued. It can limit your liability. All right? So, according to my attorney, by compartmentalizing each property separately, if a lawsuit was to break through and be successful, and there's reasons why hopefully that will never happen, but if they were to break through, the worst case scenario is you lose that property. Okay? So you lose that one, not all 25, not your personal house, not this or not that. All right? So, but then all those properties, no matter how many you get up to 100, get up to 200, whatever, they all the child series, all the child trust, they're held collectively by one parent LLC and parent trust. So it's another trust up here with a parent LLC. All right? You with me so far? And then there's another LLC created, which is a standalone LLC. It's your normal LLC that you will hear talked about, just a normal standard LLC. It's the face of your company. That's the name, okay? And let's say it's Mazske Finance LLC, okay? So the rent is paid into a bank account associated with Mazske Finance LLC. Payments, like to contractors or to my property managers, come out of that bank account, okay? So that's the name that might be known, the Mazske Finance LLC. That's the name that's known. If someone sues the Mazske Finance LLC, all they get is that LLC. If they were to win it, and there's no assets in there, there's a bank account, and there's not a lot of cash in that bank account. So that's all they would get. Okay? If someone tries to sue Mazske, because Mazske was driving his car and looked at his cell phone and crashed into a family and hit seven people with children and killed them all. And Mazske walks out of it, not a single scratch, but the family finds out Mazske owns 25 rental properties. Let's sue Mazske. Well, by golly, I was probably guilty there. They need to sue me. But what does Mazske own? I own my house I live in, but the bank has a huge mortgage on it, and I'm in Florida, and Florida does something like, I got the homestead exemption where I've had attorneys tell me in Florida that you cannot lose your personal house in Florida. You cannot be sued and lose your personal house. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know exactly what it is. But anyway, so maybe I don't lose my personal house, or the bank, they own a whole bunch of this house, not me. So what does Mazske own? Not very much, okay? Because my properties are separate, all right? They're owned by trust. They're Child Series LLC. They're separate, okay? So my attorney, one thing they say is that by having everything in a trust, you do have that anonymity, okay? Now, if someone searches out, sure, they could find my name that I used to own the property, but I no longer own it. The trust owns the property, okay? So I don't own it. The trust owns it, all right? So you also get, if some tenant or some person out there starts a frivolous lawsuit and they contact their lawyer, the hope would be if the lawyer starts looking at it, they will tell the person like, well, this is here's one thing I'll say. My attorney says that since child parent series LLCs have been in existence 20 some years, there has not been one successful lawsuit against one of these LLCs. As long as everything was done properly, okay? And it's not difficult to do things properly, okay? So, sure, do I think I will ever get a big elaborate lawsuit against me? I don't think so. I'm not going to have that wreck with 7 people. I drive cautiously. I don't look down at my cell phone. I'm a good landlord. If my property managers say a repair needs to be made, I get those repairs. If something little does happen, or some tenant just wants something, I do have insurance. So they might file a claim, and maybe the insurance company will settle with them for $25,000. Insurance company would rather pay $25,000 to settle than to lose a several $1 million lawsuit, okay? But if it is something that's bigger And they try to actually say, let's go after this rich landlord. Okay, we've seen his YouTube channel. He talks about owning oil and owning this and having 25 rentals. He's rich. Pipe dream, I'm not rich. But if I have a net worth just like Dion that is higher than 90% of the population, maybe we have something. Maybe we do. Which is a shame because every single American needs to be at our level. All they got to do is start investing. It's not that hard. Okay? But, so in my humble opinion, what I think is for myself, I need to have LLCs. Okay? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a personal, I'm a financial advisor. I just share what I've done. All right? Is it expensive? If you're a real estate investor and you get up to 10 properties like I did, and I was still working a full-time job, I think, at that time. But once you get to that level, you should have a little bit of extra money, okay? I got something, I didn't get your basic, I didn't get just LLCs. I didn't get the trust, the LLCs, the whole thing. Just that, I also got an estate plan. I got power of attorneys for medical stuff. I got wills. I got a pour-over will. I don't have to list all my properties in my will. I have a pour-over will that will collect, if I was to pass away, it collects everything I own, okay? Which is nothing. If you need an estate plan, go to an estate lawyer, okay? My lawyer did both the LLCs and the estate plan. So the fee for everything for me to start off was just under $10,000. That was with 10 properties, the trust, everything. And from my way of looking at it, sure, is $10,000 a lot of money? Sure. But for peace of mind, to be able to sleep a little better, let's say, it's not that big of an expense. It's really not. When I add another property, their rates have gone up recently, but when I first started, and I'm not going to tell price what they charge now because they may go up. Or when you call them, you'll hear something different. But when I first started this, if I bought an additional property to add it into a trust and LLC, that sort of thing, it will cost like $400 or $450. Okay? It's a fee, it's a cost, but it's not going to break the bank. All right? I also pay a monthly fee called something like their family plan. And what that does is I can pick up the phone and call them. I can email them. I can text them. And they're not going to charge me. If I want advice, I also have quarterly or semi-annual phone call conversations with them just to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. And the big thing to do correctly with this, according to my attorney, what they've told me, the main thing I got to do correctly is have good accounting, but it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. They said, basically, if I have a spreadsheet and I just list my financial transactions, rent coming in from my property manager, expense going out. It doesn't, a spreadsheet, it can be a program, Quicken or whatever they're called, the different ones. I do the cheaper stuff. They said it's legitimate. It's good. If I ever had to go to court, I take my spreadsheet with me. It's the mazske finance, whatever you call it, the spreadsheet. That's my financial one. I don't commingle funds. That's the key word. I don't commingle funds in there. It's a separate thing. But with all that being said, real estate now in 4 different states, mazske has 1 tax return. Okay? All I have is 1 tax return. I pay 1 annual registration for 1 LLC. Okay? It's not overly expensive. I think someone who is a real estate investor, if they're Dion self-manages everything, he can do what he wants. He can do what he wants. But if someone is using property managers, and especially if someone is buying property in other states, I really think they need to look at doing something like I'm doing, because you might be 500 miles away, you're 1,000 miles away. Do you want to leave everything to chance? Do you? So I don't know. What I'm going to do is upload this video if you watch to the end. I will upload the video. Once the video is uploaded, I will then add the links in the description below. Trust me, it's easier for me to do it that way. All right, so if you're the very first person watching this and you say, oh, let me check the description for those videos, you may not see them. But trust me, they will be there eventually. So, all right, good enough. If you got any questions, put them in the comments. If you disagree with me, put them in the comments. Dion, I think I got your cell number. I'll shoot you a text telling you I've made this video. If you feel free to comment or if you want to. So we'll see. All right, good enough. Well, everyone out there, hope you have a great day. Take that first step. Become a real estate investor. All right. Mazske is signing out.